Welcome to They Think It's All Sober, Mr. James Veck-Gilodi.
Hello, thank you so much for having me.
Mate, I'm excited. We've sort of toyed with getting you on before, and obviously for those listening that don't know, we've known each other for...
It's got to be like 20 years.
Nearly 20 years.
Hang on a minute.
Wow.
No, it can't
No,
be.
2009.
Okay, so...
16 years.
Yeah.
So James is the singer in a band called Deaf Havana, which is the first band that I ever managed when I was like 21. And
Actually, just the preface, sorry to interrupt you, I think you actually were managing my band first and sacked us off for a much better band. So, yeah.
No, well, look, management's a loosest term. I was just messaging people through MySpace. But yeah, I guess actually, if anything, was the first band I did manage was
Yeah.
What a wise career choice.
tech metal chaos that was the Arusha record. But what I wanted to say was, the first day you met me, you didn't know who I was because I've been talking to Chris, and I walked into the Manchester Roadhouse. And what did you say?
Probably like, who the
You
fuck
said
are
like, "Who's this chubby little fella?"
But I'm sure I was really... Wasn't I chubby as
No,
well?
you were not.
I was like, maybe I did.
Yeah,
That's great.
yeah.
Yeah, I was not my best self then.
But how are you, mate? All good?
I'm good, I'm very good. I'm a bit tired because the place I stayed last night, which you very kindly booked for me, thank you, but the walls were like paper and there was people having sex next door, and then it didn't last very long, and then he went to the toilet and then he fell asleep immediately and snored the entire night because I woke up this morning and he was still snoring.
Oh, wow.
No expenses
Must have
spared, and
been
they
good.
think it's all sober. Yeah, those Marriotts are really getting bad hotels, aren't they?
No, it was great. It's really nice. It's just I'm just a bad sleeper.
Mate, I'm terrible. I don't know what it is. Anywhere I go that isn't my house,
Same.
like, it's bad to the point where when I go away, I come back just like sleep deprivation
Same.
is the worst.
I'm such a light sleeper as well. Like anything will wake me up.
Yeah,
It's so
I'm the
annoying.
same. And I always feel bad because if my partner's sort of like, "Oh, we could stay here or stay with my friends," and it's not that I don't want to, but I just know that if I go to bed in an unfamiliar place, like if someone gets up and turns a toilet light on, I'm just like wide awake. And then for some reason, even in sobriety, my brain just goes to the weirdest places in those moments. At least at home, if I start to have a little bit of like sleep anxiety, I can normally like close my eyes and sort of like calm myself back off. But if I'm in an unfamiliar environment, my brain is just like my worst enemy.
It's so weird. I think, did we talk about this on the pod where there was, I can't remember what I was listening to, but it was like something to do with like the caveman survival instinct.
Yeah.
That when you sleep
Fight or
elsewhere, you know, your body's tuned to like respond to noises and everything,
Right.
even when you're sleeping.
Saber-toothed tigers.
That's it, exactly. So,
Exactly.
A few of them in Hackney, I'm sure.
But but we digress. But yeah, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
And, but yeah, I mean, obviously you guys have known each other a long time and have enjoyed a lot of success together, and you know have had a long journey. But I guess it'd be great to kind of explore your relationship with alcohol and how it's, you know, what part it's played since, you know, growing up and the rest of it. So I think we should step into your time machine.
I'm warmed up now in the time machine. Right, really,
Yeah,
really.
It's been a minute.
Phew, going back to King's Lynn, boy. Right, in the time machine.
We are back. We're back. So what were your, I guess, you know, from early childhood, what were your sort of first memories of alcohol growing up?
So there's no one in my family's got like problems with addiction really. Like, my parents split up when I was very young. My dad's side do drink, but not like a lot. Like my mum barely drinks. Her parents barely drink. But when I was like 11 or maybe 12, we moved to Norfolk, which is like middle of nowhere, middle of the countryside, and there's nothing to do. So my first real experiences of alcohol were like, I was probably 14 when I really got hammered for the first time. But I was never around alcohol. Like, it was never really alcohol in my house. Like, my stepdad had whiskey in the cupboard that he never drank. Like, I never saw anyone drunk. So it was all my doing, I think. But it was the first time that I experienced alcohol was at like house parties when I was like 14.
So quite a kind of typical experience, really.
Especially if you grew up like in the middle of nowhere, there's nothing else to do.
Yeah. And so at the house parties, what were your sort of like typical drinking? Was it beers? Was it spirits? Smirnoff Ices?
Firstly, it was, I mean, I was thinking about this the other day, and I even had like the sneakiness from the get-go.
Right.
Like, I remember like lying to my mum and saying that it was, every time I went to a house party, I'd be like, it was a different person. I don't know how many friends she thought I had, because it was a different person's birthday party every time. And she'd give me a
Like,
fiver.
wow, I'm so glad we moved to Norfolk. James has become so popular.
Do you know what I mean? And she'd give me a fiver every time.
Perfect.
To like give to my friend's birthday. But it wasn't that. It's because you could get 8 Castlemaine 4X from the shop for £5. And my mate Ian was about 2 years older than me, and he had a beard, and they served him.
Right.
So every single time, I was already, probably from the second one I went to, I was already lying to get money to buy booze.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And I would drink every single one of them.
And what did it give you at that time?
So I've always, as you know, Jay, I've always been like, and still am, I'm on edge the whole time. I was such a nervous, probably drinking 8 coffees a day, don't help, but I'm just nervous all the time. So the first time, I'm sure this is typical for people with this disposition, but like first time I ever got drunk or even like took a sip, this is how I remember it in my head, but it might not be the case. I just felt like, I felt like I could just like shut off and like kind of just be instead of worrying about a million things at the same time. So that was what it gave to me, relief really.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because I think for some people who are not very confident, it gives them the mask to talk to people. And then for some people that just have really busy brains, it just almost gives them this ability to shut. Will, who you just met downstairs, he said something really interesting about sort of always being a bit nervous and on edge at uni. So he'd almost like drink and then stand between 2 groups of people. So people thought he was with them, but he kind of wasn't. He just felt at peace.
Yeah, I know that.
I think that's such an interesting notion.
I can totally totally get that. But I would get that as well, but also it did give me confidence to like talk to people, especially at a young age, because I'm all right now, but like I was always so nervous. Like I had long hair, I'd just like hide behind my hair. I just played guitar. I was a proper like loser. I wasn't good at sports or anything. Like, so I just played music, and then when I discovered booze, I could really like, I don't know, I could actually be not exactly who I wanted to be, but it allowed me to talk to people and feel more comfortable in my own skin, I guess.
So you think that at that point in life, it was more, less about, just getting drunk and being at the parties, and more like, you enjoyed how it felt?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like, I wasn't the only person drinking. Like, most people were drinking, and we were very young, so it was fun and it was a laugh, and like we were away from our parents because there was this guy called, I can't remember his name, but his dad always used to let us have house parties there. We were really young, but yeah, really the main thing for me was that I just felt like calm. I felt like okay in the world, and that sounds melodramatic, but that's what it did.
No, that's it. That's interesting. I mean, I guess it is interesting, especially in like British culture, because everyone normally like pushes the boundaries, a few years younger than what the age limit is. And we've interviewed a couple of like US guests now. One of them, Dylan Francis, was saying that like in America it happened a bit older because the drinking age is like 21. Yeah. Like the parties were happening more like 17, 18, 19.
Yeah, in uni, college, whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas here, we're going from it from like 14, 15, 16.
Yeah.
And, which is at a time where, I don't think my fucking voice even broke till I was like 15. And I was like getting hammered at like these parties as like an actual kid.
Yeah, literally.
Which is wild. So that, I guess, going back to your timeline, sort of house parties, you said Norfolk.
Yeah.
So you're there. When did like you start doing like band stuff? Like when was Deaf Havana sort of formed? What age?
So that was some of the members were at the high school I was in. So
right.
Ryan, who used to scream for us, like back in the day. That was when you started working with us, right?
Yeah. 2009.
Of course it was.
The first Friends Like These was the first release we did together.
So he was in the year above me. Me and him. He was way more popular than me. Like he was very good at sports and stuff. He had like a different friend group as well, but he was also a music nerd. So me and him at lunchtime would just like go play guitar in the music room, and we liked the same music. Like we were really into metal, and we just used to learn like stuff like that. So me and him started a metal band first, and then we discovered like emo and stuff like that. So we were like, we want to attract women. We don't want to.
Yeah.
Like we were young as hell, but I reckon like actual Deaf Havana with the name, I was probably 17 or 16. I think I was still in high school. I think.
So pretty young.
Really young, yeah.
And I suppose did you start playing live? Was it just like locally to begin with? And
yeah, so like where we grew up is, I don't know, it's literally the middle of nowhere. Like like the house that I lived in with my mum and stepdad, it wasn't even in a village. It was like in the middle of a field. You couldn't walk to the nearest neighbour. It was insane. So there's nothing to do. So we didn't really ever we never had any plans of doing anything. Like we didn't think we'd ever get out. We just started playing music because we didn't have anything else to do. But we played like a few gigs, but they were in pubs, like to our mates, or like friends' birthday parties, and we just play like covers that they requested and stuff like that. So yeah, we didn't really start playing actual gigs or writing like our own music until 2007, maybe. I was 17. So yeah.
Interesting.
I was just going to go on that rural point. Did you see, because I think often with rural Britain, it does have a very like pub culture, and sort of you think of isolated old men sat at a bar having a beer. Did you see that growing up? Was that really common around you for friends' dads and grandparents?
Yeah, like I mean, I was so far away from ever even knowing what being sober was, you know, like I was just discovering this. So but I don't remember anyone not drinking. I remember like everyone's dads, everyone's granddads would always be in the pub drinking. At the house, we'd go around friends' houses and their parents would give us booze, you know, like you're all right, you're in a controlled environment, you go have some beers, which is fine. Like I'm sure they were doing it out of a place of love, but it was just everywhere. And it is because there's nothing to do there. They work like, most people work like manual jobs or like boring jobs that they don't like, and then they can go get drunk in the pub, and like somebody knows someone who owns a pub or whatever. So there's always like, we could get served at like 15 because our mate Stu, his parents owned this hotel on the beach in I say beach, it's not great. It's still in England, but it was in Hunstanton where we went to school. So we could get served in there from like 15. But I remember hating pubs when I was younger because I felt uncomfortable. I was like, I'm not meant to be in it.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like I didn't.
So there was a self-awareness of like, okay, I like the drink element of this, but I'm not enjoying the environment.
Yeah, I felt uncomfortable. I felt like, I just knew I wasn't meant to be in there. Do you know what I mean? Even though we were fine getting served, I just never wanted to go.
That's really interesting. And then I guess like coming into 2007, 2008, obviously the resurgence, the kind of boom of like the UK alt emo scene that we were all, you know, very much a part of. When the band started to get noticed, you know, and you were maybe going within 50, 100 miles and playing shows to 50 people.
Yeah.
How did drink play into that? Because I know a lot of our peer group in that period were older than us, and I know they were already quite big drinkers. So how did you feel as a 17, 18-year-old? I guess in a way like living a dream coming out of this middle of nowhere. Like how did all that sort of have a through line?
I mean, it was so instrumental in like my drinking career because I was finally allowed to do what I wanted, you know, like we'd go like, so probably 2008 would be the first time we played London, and that was like, we were like, what the hell, like we never thought we'd even get out of Norfolk, because people don't get out of Norfolk, or they get out and they go back. But yeah, I was just I was allowed to do whatever I wanted, and they, even if you don't get paid, they still give you free booze. Like you get drinks at the bar, or they give you like a 24-pack or whatever. So there's promo photos of me, and I had like a bottle of Lamb's whiskey in it, which was half drunk, because I've been, as like, you know how bad I am. I've been pretty much that bad from 18, because that was when it really just, sorry, that was a long-winded answer, but that was when I just went, okay, cool, let's go. Like I was just like, I can do what I want now.
And what did booze give you at that point? Like what was it giving you?
So the same thing, really. Like maybe on a slightly, I had a bit more confidence because I was like, okay, maybe this music isn't that terrible, but it still just gave me like the ability to. I still get nervous going on stage now when I'm sober, so it just allowed me to not care. That's what it is. It shuts it's always been the same. I still say it's the same. It shuts my brain off and stops me thinking a million things at once, and just allows me to focus.
I was going to say, slight tangent, but we've addressed it before, that it's still prevalent for promoters to give young up and coming bands coming through alcohol as currency, which is so bad when you think about it. It's like, hey, don't worry about like a 200 quid fee, we're just gonna, you know, give you some beers and a bottle of vodka. And at the time, you got growing up and you're like, sick, that'll do, that saves us having to do that. We're actually like, you know, looking back, probably not like it's not like the healthiest thing from a promoter to do, but it was so heavily normalised, right? And I think it still is to a certain degree.
There was an interview, you're going to hate me for referencing this, but there was a slam dunk interview you did with a girl called Sophie, I think in maybe 2010, 2011, first time you'd done it.
Yeah, it was the first time I did it.
But something you said actually always struck me, because you can watch it on YouTube and you were like really fucking hammered. But you said something there like, I can't remember the exact wording, but she was like, oh, have you had a few of these? And you're like, it's free. What do they want me to do?
I was like, you play in a band, you've got no money, but they give you free booze. What do they want us to do?
And it's always stuck with me. It's always, even in that moment when you were really like probably 10, 15 drinks in, like could barely stand up.
Yeah.
That was a thought process that you would acknowledge, that you were like, that's problematic.
Yeah. I think I've always sort of known that it was an issue. But I don't know. We'll get into that probably later, but it took me a long time to actually admit to myself that I was like, this is an issue for me.
Let's dive into like the rise, because I think that probably comes hand in hand with drinking, and it was quick and it was big. So I guess maybe give people a little bit of a history of like what changed in the band like 2009 to 2010, and then maybe a little bit around like the culture of like sleeping on people's floors and the vans and the partying that kind of came with that initial period. Yeah,
so it all just fed into each other. Like the song you mentioned earlier, Friends Like These, was the first song which properly like we got a little bit of recognition before that, but that was the first song that actually I noticed 100 people coming to see us, 200 people coming to see us, you know, and they would literally wait around, and then we play that song last, and they'd be like, "Whee!" So I was like, okay, people were into this. So we did that for a bit, and then the guy who screamed, Ryan, left, and we were gonna get another screamer, and then I was just like, if we actually want to do this, maybe it'd be better if I just sang. And I still don't like being a front man. I hate it. Like I just wanted to play guitar, hide behind my hair, and have a laugh. But anyway, I decided to be the singer, and then we wrote. When the hell did we write Fools?
Smiles All Around.
Oh, we wrote a song called Smiles All Around and released that. And it did the thing that I thought it would do. It did make us, like, we got way more sort of like, it wasn't mainstream by any means, but it was more coverage in like magazines, and I don't know if it got radio play, maybe.
It did get some Radio 1,
yeah. It was on TV, it was internationally on music channels. I remember seeing it in like different countries. I was like, what is going on?
Yeah, it blows your mind,
it's
right?
Weird, isn't it? Like I was so young. I was 20 then, I think. I was still like, I think I'd moved to London by that point, but I was still just like a small town. I didn't really understand what was going to happen after that. But that just kind of like fed into it. So we ended up touring a lot more during that period, and we were still broke, obviously. Like we didn't have any money really, but we managed to borrow some money to like buy a van. So we bought this like postal van, and we put beds in the back of it, and we essentially lived in it for on and off for like 2 years. And then booze as well helped with that, because like I mentioned earlier, I'm rubbish at sleeping. I've always been rubbish at sleeping, but when you get hammered, you can pass out. So we would be sleeping on people's floors. We'd be like, this is really awful, but we'd like hook up with girls so we could stay in their like uni dorms and stuff like that. We'd like find every single, I remember like on night we'd be like shouting out, has anyone got anywhere we can crash, because we don't want to sleep in this moldy van.
Yeah.
But all of that feeds into the drinking, and the drinking feeds back into that, so it just perpetuates it. And it was just getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse, and just I realised I've skipped over something that you were involved in. Remember that gig in Watford?
I was just thought of that. Yeah,
because that was before. This was when Ryan had left, right?
No, well, he hadn't left. You had a gig at Watford Rugby Club, and I think it was the first. I just started working with you, and it was the first time I think you got paid 400 quid, which was like an expensive gig for you guys. Like, that was like actual money. And it was the day of the show, and I think he texted Chris and said, "I'm not playing the show. I'm not coming." And then you guys were like, because I was in a band at the time, you're like, you know the songs, and I was like, fuck. So then I screamed.
No way.
And someone came up to me at a gig the other day and was like, I saw you perform with Deaf Havana at Watford Rugby Club 2009. I was like, Christ, is that really my legacy? But to your point, I'll let you tell the story. But yeah, that was bad.
Yeah, it was like, so I was, all through this period, I would drink a lot all day. Like, I'd play drunk all the time, but I was never like, most of the time I was just able to do it. Like I could get really hammered and play, but this particular time, I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened. I just was being an idiot beforehand and not taking it seriously. And I got so drunk I couldn't play. And at one point I was playing and I was singing, and the microphone was like over there. I thought I was singing into the microphone.
Oh fuck!
I was over there, and the guy who used to like tour manage us and drive us, who's dead now, bless him, Norm, God rest his soul. He turned my amp off because he was like, "You're not playing anything correctly." And he just turned my amp off. So like for half of that gig, it was just Jamie screaming, me singing into thin air, playing a guitar that weren't plugged in, and the rest of the band wanted to kill me.
Yeah, and the promoter tried to not pay us, and I remember just having to like be like, "Well, you're gonna have to." It was bad. But also with that, I guess like culturally, the time that era, you know, you guys weren't just touring on your own. You were touring with Young Guns, We Are the Ocean, all these other bands that were in similar lanes. You had like Front Magazine and all those magazines that were kind of like perpetuating chaos. We then go into like 2010, 2011, just before you guys kind of had real success. But, you know, I remember to get some money, you guys were sponsored by Jägermeister.
Yeah.
So then Jägermeister sent 15, 20 bottles
per tour.
I remember that. We had the same shit. It was wild.
It was insane. It would be Monster Energy and Jägermeister. So we just mix it together, and that's a terrible mix.
I can't drink either. Well, obviously I don't drink now, but I can't, because we were in the same with my band. We were endorsed by Monster and Jaeger.
Yeah,
that's all we drank. I have not been able to drink a Monster since, because that's all we drank. But they used to deliver like these crates of Monster, and before we went on tour, we'd have like, I don't know, 50 crates delivered.
Same.
Then we used to take 20 of the crates to the local like corner shop and exchange that for more booze, and they used to give that back to us. So
that's so
stupid. But yeah, I mean, so yeah, Jaeger were like obviously a big sponsor into the chaos, right?
Yeah, they were. And you're right, Jay, like at that time everything was like feeding into it, and it was like not glorified, but it was coming out of that 90s period of like it's cool to be like fucked up all the time. And I was a sad, without being like not self-deprecating, without being like, oh, pity me, I was sad all the time. I was depressed my whole life. So like booze fixed it in the short term. So I was just like, I'm sad, I'm away, I don't have anyone to answer to, and I've got free booze and I'm playing music. So it just kind of just got out of hand.
And then obviously something just changed with the band, didn't it? So sort of all the Smiles Around started to get attention and did well, and then we did a deal with BMG and put out Fools and Worthless Liars. And you know, I saw it as I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. I was 21. You were 20. It was crazy. But all of a sudden, like, you were selling 600 tickets everywhere, and songs were on Radio 1, and we were kind of in that charge, I guess, of like You Me at 6 and like all those bands that were breaking through into the mainstream. But I guess the one thing I was always managing, or people always say, was like the drinking culture within the band. Like, you guys had a reputation.
I think we still do.
For being bad.
Yeah.
Did you know that at the time? Did you care? Did you notice the success? Did you feel like it had any negative effect on it? And how did that affect everything around it?
I definitely noticed. I don't think I recognized it as success, but I noticed that more people were coming to see us, and I was like, okay. And I think I tried to take it more seriously, but I think I fucked myself over from an early age, because I never had any expectations. I started playing music because I couldn't do anything else. I was shit at sports, didn't have any I didn't really want to do anything else. So like, I never set out with goals of like doing this or doing this. I was just like, I'm happy to get out of Norfolk, you know what I mean? So all that to say, I never took it that seriously. I was just like, this is a laugh. It might end tomorrow, so let's have fun. But that reputation, like it's hilarious now because we're so boring if you hang out with us. Like, my brother has a couple of beers. I don't really drink. I mean, even before this time I stopped, I wasn't drinking on tours that much, or not at all. And but like, I think people still think we're like that, and still like, we still don't get tours sometimes because they're like, no, I don't want to tour with them because they're too much. But like, we're not. But I think at the time I didn't realize it, because a lot of the bands we were touring with were quite bad as well. So it was kind of like we were all just having a laugh, and we'd always try and tour with our mates, and it would just be a massive party. And then skipping ahead a bit, when was Soundwave?
2013.
Was it? I think it was 2012.
Okay,
It might have been 2013.
But either or.
Okay. Well, it got to a point after a while. So we released the first album with me singing, which was Fools and Worthless Liars, which is the one you were talking about, which did really well, I guess, for us. At that time, I still was not really like, I noticed a switch in my brain where I started being a bit like, not arrogant, but I was still a sweet boy when we did Fools and Worthless Liars. I was still like, I was getting hammered all the time, but I was like very appreciative, and like, I didn't believe my own hype, you know? I didn't care. I was just like, okay, this is great. I should be grateful for it. But then we started getting more like tours, and we recorded an album called Old Souls, and it was like a big budget, great studio, great producer. Like I think at that point I believed I was going to be in the biggest band in the world, which was dumb. But we were acting like we were like the Rolling Stones. We were just like, something switched in my brain. I was like, well, fuck everyone. I'm going to just be a rock star. So again, all that to say, I went from not really noticing the reputation to relishing it, and I would be like, well, fuck everyone. If you can't keep up with us, don't hang out with us. And I remember on that tour, we did a tour in Australia called Soundwave, and no one wanted to hang out with us. It was like us, because we would just, basically, every band would be in like dressing rooms outside, as you guys know, and they'd have like trays of ice and booze, and a lot of the bands had to play and then leave, so we just go and nick all the booze from the other ones, put it in our one, and we just get hammered. And the only band that hung around with us was While She Sleeps, because they're English and they were like pretty raucous at that point as well. But I just remember like relishing in it, and that lasted for a long time. I still got glorified that for years, and that was one of the worst things I could have done.
So you think your like drinking at that stage was quite destructive?
It was really destructive. It was negatively impacting every aspect of my life. Like I look younger now than I did then, and I'm like 12 years older now, which is insane. So it was impacting my health and physical appearance. It was impacting my relationships. Like every relationship I ever had up until the one I'm in now has been destroyed because of alcohol, truly. It was impacting my career because I was pushing people away that were important, that I should have been like, I don't know, like it was repelling the industry, the people who mattered. It was making me shit on stage because I was getting hammered before I played. I could still like, it was muscle memory. I could still get through it.
Yeah.
And it was fine. Some people probably wouldn't notice, but it was not. It was I was running on like probably like 20%, and it was just so it's been destructive. I think that was the switch when I started like glorifying it. That's when it became really destructive, and I became really addicted to it. Yeah.
There was a day, well, it wasn't, well, there was a tour I remember doing maybe 2013, just as it went crazy. Because for context for anyone listening, the band went from 200 tickets to 600 tickets to 1,500 tickets to 2,000 tickets to 3,000 tickets within 3 years.
Yeah.
Like it just was crazy.
Yeah.
But there was a tour where I'd really, because I did party, but nowhere near on the level of like, because I always had to be like manager. So I'd party when I needed to, but not. So I was really bad, but not as bad, I guess. I don't want to like.
Well, the difference
pat
is we
myself on
did
the
it all
back.
day. You didn't.
Yeah. But I remember one tour in particular where like we knew you had an issue, and you knew you had an issue, and the band knew you had an issue. So the solve for it was like, well, I'll drive behind the tour bus, and me and you stayed in hotels every night. And then I drove. And actually that was when you were writing Old Souls, and you wrote bits of it in the car on a miniature guitar. But like that, and we were what, 24, 25 then? So we did have the knowledge that like it wasn't good, but I think so little tools to know how to help manage. Like now in the position I'm in, if I saw that with one of my 25-year-old clients, like fuck me, I'd pull them off the road, I'd get them into treatment, like it would be a very different story. But when you are all that age, and I didn't know what sobriety
I didn't know a single sober
was.
person. I don't think.
Or
if I did, I'd laugh at them.
You know.
But especially like you say, when you're in that mind frame, you associate yourselves with people who are also in the carnage.
Exactly.
You know, so the more people there are that are like doing it and partying, the less of a problem it seems, because you're like, well, fuck it, everyone else around me
It's
is
normalised.
Yeah. Whereas we always say this before, like if I take my drinking habits from like 5 years ago, and then I was working in Waitrose, people would be like, are you fucking all right?
You'd be fired.
Yeah, you'd just be like, he's been out for 4 nights in a row, and yeah, it's just like, what the fuck's going on?
It's insane, yeah. But I never thought about that because I wasn't doing that. People would say that to me, and I'll be like, well, I don't work in. Let's take that example. I'll be like, well, I don't work in Waitrose, and it's for a fucking reason.
Yeah,
which is again, it's just the arrogance of it, and the like. I don't know. Like you say, we all did know I had a problem, but I don't think we really. Because we did that, but I was still getting hammered.
Yeah, I wouldn't say like I was aware you were well, if you don't mind me using the term, but an alcoholic.
Yeah.
I think it was just like, to be honest, at the time, we've sold 1,500 tickets in Manchester for the first time. I need James to put on the best show possible. So what can I do to protect him? Obviously, I cared about you as a person, but I also cared about holistically like the project.
Yeah.
So I think, but you're right. I remember like there was one Manchester show, I think, then we had to go to Leeds or vice versa, and like you couldn't speak.
Yeah, it was Leeds and then Manchester.
Yeah.
So in the Leeds show, I swear I was like, this was the problem. We'd get taught, and we bear in mind where we'd come from. Like I've skipped over a bunch of things. Sorry, I'd ramble. We came from nowhere, living in a postal van, to doing tours on tour buses, like nice tour buses. So I was like, what the fuck is this? So I'd always ruin it for myself because we'd leave maybe 1 or 2 days before the tour started. I'd just treat that as a party, so I'd get fucked for 2 days, and then the first show I'd be dead. And
Yeah.
like, I remember, I swear that lead show was like the second show of the tour, and I could not speak when I woke up. I was like, ugh. And I couldn't sing. Like my brother had to sing a lot of the leads. It was one of the worst experiences of my life. So yeah, sorry to interrupt, but that was
No, you're
that
right.
was then. And then Manchester was either the next day or a day off. And I think it was the next
Yeah,
day.
it was the next day.
So at this point of like, you know, bands obviously having great success, you're selling tickets, like career-wise going really fucking well.
Yeah.
But you're, you know, by the sounds of it, drinking going very much hand in hand with the success. You're getting bigger, but probably the drinking and partying is as well.
Yeah.
Did you have like, I know you've kind of brushed over it a little bit, but that kind of self-realization of like, this can't go on. Was there that point?
Maybe one or two times, but honestly, no. Like I probably knew it was bad, but again, everyone was doing it. Like the rest of my band weren't saints. They were all drinking. Maybe not as I was always the worst, I think, but they were still drinking like all day. They'd drink with me, like especially Lee, our bass player. Like he and I were drinking buddies for the whole time. So they were still doing it, but I guess because I had to sing and you could really notice it, it was worse. But no, really, I never. Or if I did have that realization, I'd think about it for like a day and then I'd be like, fuck it, I'll be fine. Like, I really didn't realize that until probably 2020 when I really admitted it to myself. But yeah, that's skipping way ahead. But I know I didn't really, and if I did, I didn't care. I wanted to carry it on. I obviously didn't love it, but I thought I loved it.
So I guess like timeline wise now we're like what, your mid-20s when this stuff's
so
really...
the shows we were talking about and like the Australia thing, that was 2013.
Yeah,
so I was 23.
Then we
or
came back and
22.
went to Berlin,
Yeah. Oh yeah. Fuck.
which was dangerous. But the label moved us to Berlin for an extended period of time to try and break Germany, put us in a flat in the middle of nowhere, basically gave us a credit card and were like, you're on your own.
And a residency at White Trash, which was the best bar in Berlin at that point. So we were just, there was just everything. But again, I would have found an excuse to drink anywhere. Like, it doesn't matter. All of these environments did make it better and make it easier and more like sort of like encouraged almost. But I would have found an excuse wherever we were. It didn't matter. I could have been in a church and I would have nixed the what. Do you know what I mean? Like, I can always find a reason to drink. But yeah, it definitely didn't help. But that period was really messy. Like my relationship was breaking down that I was in at the time because of alcohol. Like it's always been a problem. But I just didn't care, or I was drunk all the time. I didn't give a fuck. I was drunk all the time. For years, I'd wake up, drink until I fell asleep. It was insane.
Yeah, that's quite interesting because I haven't toured as extensively as you, but I remember in that period, and it was a similar time when we were doing tours, and you know, I remember how messy it was even at that level, and doing like, you know, a few festivals and, you know, bus tours and stuff. And I remember coming back off one of the tours we did. The longest one was probably like 6.5 weeks, 7 weeks.
That's long.
And getting back, and I'd lost 1.5 stone, and I looked like fucked. I remember saying to my dad, I was like, just don't let me out for the next like week, because it was bad. But I think with our stuff, because it was so technical, that was the only saving grace, is that I couldn't actually play it if I'd have drunk more than like 3 beers before.
Yeah.
So that was probably the only thing that ever slowed me down. And I think if that hadn't have been there, then I think all the day drinking and stuff would have 100% been a thing. And that was probably the only saving grace. So it's interesting to hear that was the kind of like, you know, wake up and get on it was like the sort of mentality.
Well, this has always been present in my life. Drinking and drugs have been more important than everything. So like more important than relationships, more important than my health, more important than my career. So if anything got in the way of that, like I would resent the gig because it got in the way of me drinking. So as far as I was aware, the gig was something you had to get through so you could continue partying, you know? Yeah. And bear in mind, I'd be drinking the whole set, like 6 beers on stage, you know what I mean? So like I of course knew it was a problem because I was putting precedent on that more than anything else in my life, but I refused to like acknowledge it.
That's interesting, because we had Rob Harvey on, who plays in Kasabian but was the front man of the music. He's been sober how long now?
Probably 23 years now, I guess.
Jesus.
And but he said the same thing. He said like it got to the point where the shows were secondary to the party.
100%.
It was just like, I've got to get through the next hour, and then the real fun can start.
Exactly that.
Which, when you're looking back, you know, especially when you're enjoying periods of success and like things are going really well, you know, hindsight's a beautiful thing, right? You're like, fuck. He certainly said, like, I should have been savouring those moments.
100%.
Instead, I can't really remember them, and I was just partying. And
yeah, me too. I think I was just so ungrateful. Like, I never appreciated it. I'd be like, nah, fuck this. Well, my attitude was horrendous. And it wasn't just because of the booze. I had a really bad attitude, but the booze made it worse because I was just a fiend. I'm a true alcoholic. Like, I couldn't control it for ever.
And you said, so 2020 was like a time which I guess would have been lockdown, right? Where you kind of said you realised you might have had a problem.
It just got worse and worse and worse, and I could obviously drink more. And I got into like drugs quite late in my life, but they became a big aid because I could drink more if I took drugs. And then it got to the point where I was like, I can't drink without drugs. So it was like, I think it was, I really just stopped caring about anything. Like, I really just didn't care about myself or anybody I hurt. And like, I'm sure I've got so many people that I've just pushed away because of how I was. But it just with the more touring, and because I never really enjoyed touring that much. I couldn't sleep well. Like, I don't know. Like, I feel like I just never enjoyed life. So if I could get fucked up, it helped me because it just makes stuff bearable, which sounds so like over dramatic, but that was truly like how I felt. But with the success and stuff, like, we had a little lull period in 2015, but then we released another album and we started doing big tours. Like, we supported like Kings of Leon and massive people. We did sober tours where like we were on tour with Placebo, they're dry, like there's no booze, you don't get booze in your rider, but every single day I was sneaking booze in and like mixing it in Coke bottles, and I'd be drinking all day still. Like, I'll always find a way. But the bigger it got, the more money, the more alcohol we got, the worse it got for me. And I never ever stopped. I would just perpetuating, and it was endless. I'd wake up, drink, keep drinking, go to sleep. Same thing, like every single day, and I never wanted to admit there was a problem. I don't think, because I didn't want to stop.
It's interesting that with Placebo, obviously, because Brian is very openly, you know, sober, or tries to be sober, and obviously being on a tour in another country with a band like that where it's completely dry. I think was that a point you realised that you genuinely maybe had an issue because you were going to those lengths, or was it still much like fuck everyone else, like I'll just do what I want because I need to get drunk?
It was fuck everyone else, I'll do what I want. Really.
Was it a need to get drunk or a want to get drunk?
Yeah, I had the physical like shakes, and I didn't want. It was a need at that point. I think it had been a need since probably 2013, so it was a good sort of almost 10 years of that. But no, I don't think I realised. I was in my head having fun and dealing with life, and aren't you meant to do this? Like, what? And then I'd like slag off the fact that people were trying to be healthier, and like, because all of that stuff that I was like complaining about was only because I think secretly I wished I could do it, but I just couldn't. So maybe I did acknowledge I had a problem. I just didn't want to think about it. But I don't know really. I just have always, it's just, at that point, it was just my life and it became my identity. Like, it's weird in sobriety learning what you like.
Yeah, who you are. It's mad,
exactly, because I'd put all my identity on, like, that was like a reputation that, like I said, I probably liked it. It was like, don't go drinking with James because he's a fucking psychopath, which is awful when you think about it, especially when you get older. It's embarrassing.
Yeah.
People still think that about me, which is fucking embarrassing.
Mate, we say this all the time. Like, I had one of my best mates came on the pod last season, Alex, and notorious for partying. And it would be the same if we'd go out, people would actively be like, oh no, I'm not doing that because Alex and Hollings are out. Like, people would actively choose to not go out with us.
Same.
I'm like, fuck, that is bad.
Same.
That is actually really bad, isn't it?
That was, I loved that episode. And like when he talked about in Nottingham when someone pulled a gun on him, like shit like that happened to us. Like, we got a knife pulled on us in LA, and I remember me and Lee just laughing at the guy. And like, it worked. He just didn't do anything. And then, a drug dealer followed us back to our hotel because we didn't pay him. And then again managed to negotiate and just gave him like a bottle of tequila and hung out with him in LA. But he, like, we could have been killed. We had a gun pulled, not on us, but outside the hotel. There was a gang in Paris once, and it was like a fenced-in hotel. I was hammered, and they like got guns out and were like pointing. And the guy from the front desk was like, get inside, like pulled the shutters down. And then later we woke up and found they broke into the hotel. But like, we were oblivious, we were hammered, we didn't give a shit. So like, all that to say, in those moments, it's you don't. I think what he said was he just didn't care if he died or whatever. Like I didn't give a fuck. I'd be like, do it then. Yeah. I just did not care. And that I'm not brave. I'm very like, I'm scared of everything. But it was just like, I just did not care. It was insane.
Yeah, it's interesting to hear. And it's like, now when you're saying it, like, how does it make you feel, like, looking back?
Like an insane. It doesn't feel like that's me. Yeah. Because if that happened now, I'd be like, I don't know, I'd like freak out. But it that doesn't feel like it was me. I don't know. It was just it's insanity. Like, it drives you insane.
So obviously, as you said, sort of get through 2018, 19.
Yeah.
Lockdown happens. Where are you at that point?
So 2019 was the worst year of my entire life. I call it the year I went missing, because the start of it was a big long tour, which was okay. But our sound guy, who's a dear friend of mine, left halfway through the tour. He was like, he just sat me down one night. He's like, I can't do this. You guys are out of control. So I was like, okay, what are you going to do about it? Are you going to send someone else? Or are you just going to fuck off? And I got really personally offended. And he was like, I cannot hang out with you guys because you're out of control. So he left. So that tour was insane. So obviously I continued to party even more. And then me and my wife at the time, this is all because of booze, broke up in that year. We got back together afterwards for a bit. Broke up during that time, just as we were on tour in Asia. So she came to Japan and we broke up in Japan. And that just drove me off the edge. So for the rest of that tour, I don't remember that tour. Like, Japan was the first day, and then we had Korea, Singapore, Thailand, somewhere else, and then loads of Australia. It was about 3.5 weeks after that. So I don't really remember any of that tour. It was just a blur. Landed at Heathrow from that, got picked up by my granddad, and he drove me back to their house, which is where I was living at that point, because I didn't live in London anymore because we'd broken up. And I just went insane. Like, I just remember, like, I went to Spain for a week. I don't remember that. I don't even know how I got there. I don't know how I got on the plane. I don't remember getting on the plane. I have few flashes of being there. It was a friend's wedding. That was I went to the wedding for like 2 hours and then left because Ted was there, actually, one of our friends. I went to the wedding for like 2 hours and left because I was so on a come down and like shaking, and no amount of booze could fix me. So we just went with some other friends to their house and just got even more fucked up. But I don't really remember that. I don't know how I got home from that. And then some stuff that I literally will never talk about happened for the remainder of that year and the start of the next year. And then I came back to London and got locked down in my wife's flat, which we'd been broken up. So we weren't together at that point, but we kind of were forced to be physically together again, and we ended up getting back together. But we're now in 2020. In sort of September of 2020, I was like, I should probably try and stop drinking. So that was the first time I stopped drinking. I did a month with nothing, didn't go do like AA, nothing. I hated it. So I just started drinking again. And then going into like 2021, how dark can we get on this?
Mate, fill your boots.
I tried to jump out of the window of our building in 2021, which is an awful thing to put on someone because she was there. Because it was my birthday. I was so depressed, so fucked up. Nobody, this is so pathetic, but like no one had said happy. No one remembered. I didn't even really remember it was my birthday. I just got fucked on my own all day, sitting in the kitchen, and then tried to, like, the window, I would have died if I fell off, but I was outside, like on the window, and I don't really remember it, but obviously didn't happen. But I was so depressed. That didn't stop me drinking. Carried on a bit longer, had a birthday party. I got at the flat, I got so fucked up and coked up, and just, I did some shit that I really don't remember doing, but apparently I did, and it's not good. So the next day, I found an AA group that was working in lockdown. They were having meetings in like Highgate Wood, which was really nice. So I just went to that, and that was the first time but even then, I don't think I wanted to be sober. I was just reacting to the consequences of my actions. I was still like, I resented it. I was like, I don't want to fucking do this, but like, it was for someone else, you know?
Sure.
So that was the first time I really tried to do it. And that lasted for like just over 9 months. I got sobriety of that time, but I hated every second of it. I wasn't doing the work, as they say. I wasn't invested. I was just doing, this is the thing with me. I always do the minimum amount just to get by. I was just doing that.
So you were just there in person, really?
I was just there in person. Like, I wasn't sober up here. I just wasn't drinking. It was terrible. But yeah, it's really ruined every aspect of my life, which is pretty depressing.
I mean, so that, you said that was what, like 9 months of...
Yeah, just over.
And then what happened there, if you don't mind me asking?
So that was in London. We lived in North London, and that I could walk to the meeting, and it was really nice outside. And then we moved to Essex in the middle of nowhere, and I went to one meeting there, and I was like, nah, this is not for me, because this sounds so awful, but I was like, these people were all 20 years. Like, the one in Highgate was like musicians, that was like famous people, which I care about that, but it was like musicians, artists, like actors, playwright, just like creative people. So I was like, and it's not about that. You should be able to connect with someone who's going through the same things as you, because it's all the same struggle. But I really could connect with these people, and I was like, okay, maybe I'm not so weird.
Just like London creatives, basically.
Literally, yeah, exactly that. But then when we moved to Essex, it was all just like people, without sounding horrible, people that you'd expect to be in AA, you know, like, and the chairs they would do, and the people that they were like, the stories they would tell were just so boring, and they'd never, and in my head I was like, you're not an alcoholic. I was like, of course you're an alcoholic. Your life's so boring, there's nothing else to do. You haven't got any stories. And like, I was still trying to go. I was treating that as like, I would get off on the stories they tell. Like, the darker the story, the more I'd be like, oh fuck, I can't wait to go tomorrow and hear what shit's happened to them in their life. But when that stopped, I was just like, nah, I don't want to do it. So I tried to stay sober without that, and then again, I just was like, I was lying to like everyone. I was like, no, I'm fine, I can drink a few drinks here and there. But then within 2 days, 3 days, I was like, here's a perfect example. Say if my partner was at work, I'd be like, oh, I'll cook us dinner, get us a bottle of wine. I buy 3 bottles of wine. I drink 2 of them on my own, and then drink a bit of the next one, and then she'd think that was the first bottle of wine I'd had. So I was hiding, and that was probably 2 days after I started drinking again. I've always been so sneaky about it. To the end, always so sneaky about it. So yeah, it just happened, and I thought I could control it, and very quickly realised I couldn't.
And since then, did you get yourself back into like AA?
Yeah.
Is that your kind of thing?
Well, it was. I just didn't. I was desperate the first time, so I didn't really know what else to do.
Sure.
I've done a couple. So like in the last, since 2020, I've probably got collectively 2.5 years of sobriety in periods. So it's not, I've relapsed a lot. But yeah, mostly I would go to AA. But then I did like 5 months where I didn't go to AA. But again, it was until this current period of sobriety, I've never done it for anyone. I've never done it for myself. I've always done it for something or someone, and I've never accepted it in my brain. I'll be like, I'll drink again one day. I'll be fine. I'll just shut them up for a bit, and then they'll forget about it. So yeah, I was just never in it. I was never in it. Some days I would be, but then most of the time I'd just be like, oh, this is boring. And I could not imagine what my life would be like without it. Mm-hmm. Whereas now I can. But yeah, it was just, I don't know.
That last period of 9 months you did before the blip, which led to your current one, I obviously saw you for the first time in a couple of years, and you did a show in Islington. The band was amazing, and we came together to celebrate 10 years of that great album we worked on and stuff. And I saw such a different you, and you had brought a friend from AA to dinner, and we had dinner, and like I saw that spark, and I was not disappointed in you, but it's always sad when I was like, fuck yeah, Jamesy's like the best fucking Jamesy, and then obviously you drink again and you go back into that sort of cycle. What were the things that would trigger you in relapses, if you don't mind me asking? Like what would lead to it?
So a big one is flying. I'm really scared of flying. So I've relapsed like 3 times on flights. A lot of it was honestly, anything. It's more inside my brain. Like, I resent it. Like, when I'm sober, because I'm normally the only person that's sober in those environments. Sort of, I'm certainly the only person sober, like, when we go on tour. And I would just resent people. I'd be like, why the fuck do they get to drink and I can't? So I just end up, I'd be like, this is bullshit, it's not worth it. And that's the obsession, that's the not caring about anything else, and everything goes out the window as soon. It's insane, but like what they say about like keep away from the first drink, it really is that simple. Because as soon as I have one sip, or even if I was thinking about this the other day, even if I know I'm gonna have a drink, I feel immediately like my anxiety goes away. I'm like, everything's gonna be all right, and I don't even need to taste it. And like as soon as I have a sip, I'm like, yeah, let's go. So anything could trigger me, but it was really just resentment. So I wasn't doing it for myself. I was like bitter about it. So, and those environments are difficult when everyone's drinking. Like I'm not, like I said, I'm not very confident really. Like it's hard for me to be in those situations and not drink. So realistically, it was the environment I was in. But again, I'd find an excuse anywhere to do it.
So you say, this time around, you feel like you're doing it, for the right reasons and for yourself, and feeling good for doing so.
Yeah. So probably the worst period of drinking I've ever had, or one of, was leading up to this stopping. So like, I broke up with my partner at the time in August last year, and that was because of alcohol. Like, it's been a long, ongoing battle. Like, it's probably a lot of it. Like, there was a lot of reasons, but like a lot of it is alcohol and drugs. And so as soon as that was gone, I was like, okay, fuck yeah, I can do whatever I want. So I was drunk, and this is no exaggeration, every single hour that I was awake from August until the 25th of April this year. So yeah, I moved back in with my grandparents. I was stealing, they called me out on this as well. They were like, have you been stealing bottles of wine? I was like, yeah. How embarrassing is that? My grandparents were letting me live in their house at 35. It's pathetic. But I was just, any way I could find, I was just drunk the whole time. And then I was also at this point, I was like, maybe if I get out of this relationship, I'll be happier. But it got worse. I was so depressed. And I went to America in January of this year to like see a friend and like do a bit of music. And I just was still so sad and so like just drinking every day, all day, waking up. I was staying at my friend Phil's house, and he doesn't know this, but like I was waking up in the middle of the night, going to his spirits, taking it back to my room, necking it, and then hiding it. I was hiding all the empty cans and bottles in his wardrobe, like in the room that I was staying in. And then when he was out, I'd go and put them in like the bin outside, and it's just so embarrassing. And then I met someone really amazing at the end of January, and still continued to drink, and then basically just had like I started to like feel better in myself, and like there was little glimmers of like hope, and I felt like maybe I still wasn't planning on stopping drinking, trust me. And I continued to get like party every day. I mean, I was hiding it from people still up until the end. And then basically, like, skipping ahead, I just had a huge nervous breakdown in Dallas, Texas, of all places, on the 24th of April. So not that long ago. And I don't remember this, but I was like, I remember doing shots at this bar with a guy who just got out of prison, and he was like a gang guy, which for some reason I've always been attracted to. So we were just doing shots, and then I blacked out. And I have vague flashes of like in a car shouting, driving, like out in the rain, like trying to find a hotel. And then that night, I don't remember barely any of this. I had a huge meltdown, breakdown. Apparently I was like hysterically crying to my now girlfriend in a hotel room. And I was just like, please just remind me of this in the morning, because I know that I won't remember it. I was like, hold me accountable, because I need to stop drinking. It's ruined my life for so many years. She told me all this, and like apparently I was just hysterically crying, like just turned into a child, I guess, just like begging for help, which has never happened to me. And that's all for me, because I was in blackout. I was not thinking about anyone else. That was all for me. And I was like, just please hold me accountable in the morning, because I know I'll wake up, I'll be okay, and I'll start drinking again. And she did. And since then I haven't drunk, and I've been working on it, and I've been really doing it for myself, because it's a cliche, but you can't do it if you don't do it for yourself, because I never wanted it before, because I never thought there was anything worth doing it for. Like, I certainly didn't think I was worth doing it for. So yeah, hopefully that will be the last drink I ever take in my life.
Amazing. As I said to you the other day when we were out in London, obviously I met you and your partner for the first time. It's really fascinating, because I can see this time that you do really want to do it for you, but also see the glimmer of hope that someone else has given you with the support. And we talk about this all the time. Like, you know, I sort of came out of a relationship where partying was the thing, and then you meet someone who just wants to support you and wants you to be the best version of you. Like, that's really eye-opening. Like, how, obviously you are doing it for you, but how has that felt, like having that support network maybe for the first time around you?
Yeah, I don't want to sound mean saying I've never had that before, because I'm sure I have. I'm sure people have tried to support me, but I don't think they knew how, that's a me problem.
Yeah.
I'm like, and obviously I would be pushing the support away, but this time round, like, she doesn't have an issue with alcohol, but she has stopped drinking just to help me. It's honestly, it's the best thing that could possibly happen, because I wouldn't be able to do it. I'm much more secure in myself, and I want to do it for me, but it's so much easier when you have that, like, true support that comes from a place of love, like, not from a place of I want you to stop because you're annoying me. It's from I want you to not die. I want you to be a good human. And she's doing that just to support me, which is incredible.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's like, there's not many people that would do that.
And still doing it a 7-hour flight away.
Yeah, exactly.
In solidarity.
Yeah, and I've overcome a lot of things. Like I said earlier, my biggest fear really in life is not my biggest fear, but my biggest tangible fear is flying. And I did my first ever sober flight. I did 2 to come back from America recently, and I did it. I don't know how I did it. I don't know what possessed me to do it. I went into that and I was like, I got a backup. They got free booze in that flight. No one's gonna know I'm drunk. I can do it. And I could have done. I could be lying to you right now, but I can tell you honestly, I'm not. And I did it, and I don't know how I did it. I just got through it, and it sounds pathetic, because flying is something people do every day. I was so fucking proud of myself when I landed in Heathrow and got off the plane, and I was completely sober, completely coherent, because that is not me when I get off a flight. I'm normally a fucking mess. But it was I don't know. That was a
Proper,
huge
like,
hurdle.
fist pump moment. You're like,
really?
yeah.
And I was just on my own, like, I had tears in my eyes. It was crazy, because I never, ever, ever thought I'd be able to do that. And for me, that's given me so much confidence, that, because if I can do something once, I know I can do it again. So that's given me so much confidence to be like, if I can get over that one hurdle, which I've relapsed many times on flights, and it's been the reason I've started drinking again. If I can do that, I think I can really do anything.
Have you taken on any, like, new things since then that, you know, to kind of fill your time? Because you probably find you've got more time, right?
Yeah, I've got more time. No, I haven't. I need to do that. I mean, I guess I've been, like, trying to write a bit more, and trying to, like, I started doing a bit of exercise, which I need to do. I want to get, like, I used to do jiu-jitsu, and I want to get really back into that, because it's very good for the brain.
Oh, mate. Well, Alex, who you have to say, I mean, he's, like, obsessed.
Yeah.
And I think that's been his saviour. For me, it's been golf.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, which is just like, I don't know, whatever enjoyment I get from it, I'm just like, do you know what? That's like, I like booking in an early tea time for like a Sunday, because, you know, normally that would be when I'd still be in bed or like missing out. And it's like nice to get up and be like, cool, I'm on the course. And just imagine my former self just lying there snoring, pissing my missus off, and I'd upset everyone from the night before. It's nice to imagine the kind of the parallel lives, right?
Yeah, no, it's great. But I definitely need to, like I said, I've been trying to get sober for a long time, but this is still pretty early on in this journey. But yeah, I need to. There's a lot of things I need to implement. But
what's been? I know you sort of said about doing it for you, but what has felt like? Because you said to me numerous times, like, this feels like the one. And I've even noticed, like, you're posting about it on socials, which you've never done before. No. I guess as always as a way, because you can be sneaky.
Exactly.
What does feel different?
I feel different. I feel confident that I can do it, which I've never felt before. I've always in the back of my brain been like, I'll drink again, it'll be fine, I'll just get this out of the way, people will get off my fucking back, and then I can drink again. And now I want to live a sober life. I don't want to be an asshole anymore. I don't want to be the person that I become when I'm drinking all the time. It's exhausting thinking about booze 24 hours a day. It is fucking exhausting. I think that's why I had that breakdown. So yeah, I think I've just changed. I've started to see the like little glimmers of hope in life and what my life could be, which I've never looked ahead before. I've always just be all right. So I've started to see that, I think.
Nice.
Mate, well, this is, I think we really appreciate you coming on, and talking about this, because it's really important. And I think like there's certain parallels between your story and Will, who we just had on, who you met, who did like a fairly long chunk and then sort of relapsed at Christmas and then is quite new into it again. And I think like it's really important for our listeners to know that like sobriety isn't like linear.
No.
Not everyone has a different journey and a different path. I'm very grateful that, and same with you, Jay, as well, that I was like, I'm going to do 100 days. I didn't know if I could do it at the time, but I could. And but at that stage I was like, well, if I can't, then I am going to have to get into a program or something. And then everyone's just got a different journey, and I think it's really important to kind of share yours, because there's people that listen that have tried and then keep on trying. And I think it's so important, because at some point it clicks.
Exactly.
And at that point you kind of know, and you have that gut feeling in yourself as well, and then you're kind of putting everything around it. So I really appreciate you coming on and being so honest and sharing it.
No, I agree. And it's beautiful. I love you very much. It's so nice to see you in this space. And I think for both of us, if you'd said to us like, 2012, 2013 us, that we'd be sat on a podcast in our early to mid 30s talking about sobriety, you'd be like, what the hell? So no, it's beautiful to see.
Big three.
The big three.
So for anyone that's like thinking about going on a journey of sobriety, what's the best piece of advice you could give?
I would say it's probably what you just touched on. I think it doesn't really matter how many times you fail. You can always do it if you really want it. But it probably is just, you have to do it for yourself. You have to do it for yourself, because it really doesn't work unless you really want it, because it's not easy. Like I've heard people say, sorry, this is going to be a bit long. I've heard people say like, you don't miss out on anything when you stop drinking. I'm going to challenge that. And I think you do miss out on stuff when you stop drinking. You miss out on parties, you miss out on fun, you do miss out on stuff, but you have to decide what is more important. Do you want that, or do you want a fulfilling life where you can achieve things that you never thought you could achieve? Because if you want that, take alcohol out of the equation and it will happen. So I think you really just have to decide what your priorities are and do it for yourself.
That's great. That's really good. What's the single best thing that sobriety has brought you?
Self-respect, because I really had none, and I still don't have much, but it really does teach you that. An ability to be with yourself, because I was always trying to be around other people.
That's great. And finally, we would like James to write a letter to drunk James. So if you could start with, Dear James, what would you say to your former self?
I'd probably be, I don't know, Dear James, you don't have to be so hard on yourself. Like, the world's not out to get you. You have amazing people in your life who do love you, even if you can't see them. Just really don't be so hard on yourself, and don't push everything down and mask it with substances. You don't need to do that. And that there is a life out there which doesn't involve this, and you will be happy one day.
Nice. Beautiful.
Mate. Well, thank you so much
for
joining us.
for
That's an amazing episode. And like I said, I think a lot of people will benefit from you sharing your story. So thank you.
Thank you so much for having me, guys.